All right, welcome to another edition of Labor. I'm joined here with my good friend, Mike Smolanoff.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, man.
Good to be here.
Thanks for making the time to come here.
Absolutely. Anytime.
For anyone who doesn't know Mike, he's a marketer, a great marketer. He's a whiskey connoisseur.
American whiskey. Don't know shit about Scotch.
And most notably, just a good, replace the word good, a great man. A great man.
Damn.
Yeah, I'll put that out there.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So we're here to talk about a topic that resonates with a lot of our audience, I think, and really strikes a chord with me, with my fiance, with you, and that's anxiety. Before we go into that, would you mind just like telling a little bit about yourself for anyone who's listening?
Yeah. Shit. A little bit about myself. It's always hard when people say, "Tell me a little bit about yourself." I can talk for days. When someone's asked me to explain who I am.
It's hard when it's about you.
It's hard, yeah.
Just like, where are you right now in your journey in life?
Yeah, my journey in life. So, I, after college, kind of jumped into the world of music thinking that was going to be my path. Quickly learned it wasn't for me, and by accident landed myself at a company and was doing kind of experiential marketing. And I didn't know what that was at the time. At the time, it was involved in music. We were doing concerts, so we were taking brands and going on concert tours with these brands. So I thought, like, oh, it kind of aligns with my passions in music, and it's kind of, I want to be around music, but I don't want to be in the music industry, so this could be an interesting thing. And then a few months into being there, that whole program fell apart, and I was literally doing tours, like mobile marketing tours, and I was doing straight up experiential marketing work, and I had no idea what the hell was going on or what it was. But through my time in doing it, I kind of started to like it, and I met some awesome people along the way, and very lucky to kind of, in the past, I guess, 11 years of doing it, I've been able to meet some great people, work on some great projects with some great brands, travel the country, see some stuff, and yeah, I am an experiential marketer, whether I like it or not. It's something that I fell into, decided I really enjoyed, and has kind of become my career. So I've kind of worked mostly on the production side of things, but I've also kind of dabbled in some account services, and a lot of times in what we do, account services and production kind of fall hand in hand, in experiential marketing. So I think really at the end of the day, I just enjoy creating experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I like the conversational aspect of experiential marketing. I like that it forces the marketer and the consumer to have a conversation, whether it's directly or indirectly. I like that direct link between people. I myself have found the most effective marketing that has worked on me as a consumer has been when I've had a one-on-one conversation with someone who's explaining something to me in a way that's much more in depth than anything I could ever get out of a traditional ad. So I do it, but I also believe in it. So
is it safe to say that you love what you do?
Yeah, I love what I do. Obviously, there are days that are tough and not as good as other days, but I have spent a good amount of time thinking about, do I like what I do? And at the core of what I just explained, what experiential marketing is, I enjoy that. So if experiential marketing allows me to do things that designs experiences to connect with people on a deeper level, then I'll always enjoy that. Yeah.
Marketing is one of those things where, like, I feel like a lot of people are in it because they love the process. They love the potential outcome of doing the work, but it's a notoriously just very stressful, place to be, whether you're in an agency or specifically an agency, but also with brand side. And a lot of anxiety tends to be tied to that sort of industry, maybe more so than a lot of others. Why do you think that is?
Maybe, right? Like I can only speak from my experience.
Mm-hmm.
I know plenty of people in marketing that don't do experiential. I know plenty of people who have never been a marketer, and there's stresses and anxiety that can come from any job, I suppose, But, one of the things that you and I were talking about earlier that I think can create anxiety in what we do, especially if it's in the form of an event. You can spend months planning and designing and coming up with ideas on what this event should be, what should it mean, what should it look like, what goes in the corner, what should these people be saying, what color are the lights, what time do the doors open. I mean, there's a million things that go on in creating an actual live experience. And I think the anxiety or the stress that one can get from that is in the lead up, right? It culminates to a moment. There's a moment, The doors are going to open, the people are going to run in, and everything's got to be right. If it's not right, is there egg on your face? Is everyone going to say, what's going on here? This isn't what we discussed. This isn't how it's supposed to be. And if you're a producer or you're someone that is directly responsible for the outcome of what was on paper to what happens in the real world, that can be stressful. And that's experience that I can draw from. I've been there many times. And you can spend hours, days, weeks, months losing sleep. Did I turn the oven off, right? It's like, did I remember to get this person's paperwork in on time? Did I do that? Well, let me check my sheets. It's the constant, did I do this? Did I check off on this box? Did I have this conversation with this person? All that stuff. So yeah, I mean, you and I have worked together before. We've done some stuff where, you have to, you come up with an idea, someone loves it, great, it's awesome, you like that, you like our idea. It's like, okay, now go do it. Now bring it to life. And there's not a lot of margin of error, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, there are a lot of stressful jobs out there. I'm not trying to say that experiential marketing is the most stressful thing in the world, but in being human, you get stressed out, and I've been there, man, and anxiety has been a driving force, sometimes for the positive and sometimes for the negative.
Yeah, I think there's just so much responsibility, like millions and millions of dollars.
Sure.
That you have to deliver what you promise.
Right.
But I want to ask you, what is your then definition of anxiety?
It's fear. Yeah, it's fear. It's worry, right? Maybe they're the same, maybe they're a little bit different, but it's fear. Fear of, whatever the situation is. I think it really boils down to being afraid of something that has happened, that can affect something in the future. Fear of the unknown of the future. It could be tomorrow. It can be in 30 minutes when I leave here. It could be 10 years down the line. What is my life going to be? You could spend enough time thinking about anything, and the uncertainty of life and things, work, relationships, whatever. People generally, I feel, like to know what's next, what's going to happen, what can I plan for, what can I expect, or the unknown with such a wide, such a large amount of possibilities and what can happen can stress a lot of people out. I think anxiety kind of draws on that fear and kind of creates this moment where you get frozen, where you're not exactly sure what to do. And in other cases, maybe you know exactly what it is you need to accomplish, but the overthinking, or just thinking in general about so many things, can kind of lock you in place and create a lot of uncertainty around you. So, from someone who's dealt with it before, I can say anxiety comes from some level of fear, whether it's like, am I not doing the right thing? Am I not good enough to do this? Will this affect me in the future? did this thing that I did 2 years ago, was that the right thing? Oh, now I'm thinking about it. Should I have done that? Should I have said that to that person? Does that person think I'm an asshole now? Oh man, what if they tell this person? You know, you can spend a lot of time reflecting, and you can spend a lot of time pontificating, you know, and both can create a tremendous.
It's the first time that word's been used, pontificating, ever. Congrats on that.
I looked it up before I came here.
No, I agree with you. Fear, that's a big tie with fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
What, though, specifically, though, gives you anxiety, then? Besides fear, like, what are some specific moments or occasions or things that give you anxiety on a daily?
I mean, that question today, or my answer today could have been different 2 years ago, might be different in 2 years, right?
No, right now, then.
Right now,
yeah.
What am I anxious about? I think, you know, I'm at a point in my life where I think I know who I am. You know, I've had a good amount of life experience, at least I think I have. I've traveled a lot, I've met a lot of people, I've done a lot of things. I know what I like, I know what I don't like. I'm still willing to try new things, but I have a pretty good grip on who I think I am. Now it's, what do I do in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, right? You know, when I was 23, thinking about, or 24, thinking about 10 years down the line is now, right? I'm 34, I'm gonna be 34, and you know, a little bit. Then I was just like, my level of anxiety for certain things were more probably social at the time. Like, what does this person think of me? You know, that kind of thing. Nowadays, it's like, you know, as you get older, you kind of solidify your circle and people in your life, and you're comfortable there. And now it's more professional, right? You know, I'm no longer just another guy kind of doing things and taking commands from people. I'm responsible for things. You know, if something goes wrong, it's my fault. So the anxiety can be a lot of things. Like, am I doing the right thing right now? What am I going to do to further myself professionally? And I think a lot about, do I want to do stuff on my own in, you know, 5, 10 years from now? Do I want to be working at a company? Do I want to do my own thing? Like, the uncertainty of that gives me a lot of anxiety sometimes. When I really think about it, there's a lot of things I like, a lot of things I want to pursue, hobbies, whatever, things I want to learn. But if someone's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do 10 years from now? I don't know. And the idea of not knowing freaks me out. Because I look at some people, I say, what do you want to do in 10 years? Like, oh, this. I'm like, holy shit, this person's got it figured out. And I can envy that in some ways, because I'm like, man, this person's pretty certain what they want to do. And then I think, am I not driven enough? Do I not, you know, have a path and a commitment to a vision and sticking to it? That sometimes makes me go, holy shit, you know, I don't know what the hell is going on here. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. You know, I can think of a million things. So I think that level of uncertainty, and not maybe finding that thing that I can say, oh yeah, I'm going to be doing this for the next 30 years of my life. And again, it doesn't mean I don't like what I do now. I do, but you know, can I say confidently that I'm going to be doing this for 30 years? I don't know. The idea of saying yes scares me. Again, not that I don't like it, but like, it's like do you stop evolving? Do you just like settle? Do you commit to just being like, well, this is what I do. Got 30 years left. Hopefully it works out over the course of the next 30 years, and that's a scary thing, right? So, the uncertainty.
Are you at a place now, looking back 10 years ago? Let me rephrase. 10 years ago, looking now, are you at a place where you thought you'd be?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say 10 years ago, I thought to myself, okay, I'm in this business, and I saw my bosses, and I see what their title is and what they do, and can I see myself doing that in 10 years? Yeah, I can see myself doing that in 10 years. And I am. And that's cool. But I'm not really sure what the next 10 years is. You know, I don't know what's on the other side of the next 10 years, you know? Mm-hmm. There's a few people, like, that's the thing, you know, as you, in your career, when you're starting out, there's a lot of people around you. A lot of counterparts, a lot of contemporaries, people that you can look and go, that person's me, I'm like this person, we're the same age, we have this kind of job, whatever. As you get older, as you move up, you know, there's only so many people at that point, right? As you go up, the seats above you are less, right? You know, when you're the CEO of a big company, where do you go from CEO? You know what I mean? There are people that figure different things out, and you know, but like as you get up, there's less room. You get close to the ceiling, so to speak. But because of that, I can maybe think of a few things that I could see myself doing in 10 years. I just don't know if that's what I will be doing in 10 years. Whereas in 10 years ago, I was fairly certain that by this point I could figure out how to get to something around where I am. Because it seemed much more attainable, it seemed much more possible. I still think it's possible to grow and all that, but I don't know. It's not as direct, it's not as clear.
What would you say drives you? And do you want more whiskey?
That's one of them. I do.
I'll bring it up.
Yeah. Now pause for a quick commercial break. Smooth Ambler Old Scout. It's a 10-year single barrel. It's quite delicious. Yeah, I mean, what drives me now? That delicious sound. It's so good. I want to do cool shit. You know, I want to do some cool stuff. I did a project last year I was really proud of, you know. It was different, it was unique, it was challenging, and I got that feeling that I got years ago where I was working on stuff that was new to me and I didn't know really what I was doing, or there was a lot I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. There was a lot I didn't know. And I had to seek out knowledge from people that knew things I did not. And I needed to try to figure out who the right people were to bring in to help lead me down the right path on certain aspects of a project. And I ended up working with some incredibly talented and intelligent people that I learned a lot from in a short period of time. And I was surrounded by a group of people out of necessity on this project where it was just like, I didn't know them before, like one guy I did, but the rest of them, I didn't know these people before, but we became close friends because in some ways, we suffered through it together. You know, it was like, how the hell are we going to do this? And it's like, shit, well, it hasn't been done before, we don't really know how it works, but we have to figure it out. And it came together in a relatively short period of time, which was like another really cool thing to be able to say we did. It's like, not only did we accomplish something really cool, but we did it in a time frame that seemed unrealistic, or we weren't sure if it was going to work. And I was really okay with the fact that I was the least smartest person in the room, or at least I felt that way. And sometimes when you're like, man, everyone in here is smarter than me, or if you ever feel that way, that can give you anxiety, or that can actually bruise an ego, and people can react differently. But I took a lot of inspiration from that, because I was like, man, these people are fucking pros. They're unbelievable what they do. And I get to work with them. And I get to be on this project and in this room with them. And the one thing I can say is like I brought them together, right? What was my contribution is I found these people and I was part of that process, and I helped bring them together and helped kind of develop the relationships with these people that we all ended up working together. Like that's something I'm proud of. And it reminded me of how I felt when I was younger, and I didn't know anything about anything, and I was working with a group of people that were awesome and taught me so much, and I was learning so much from these people. Mm-hmm. And I really think at the end of the day, like, getting to work with a really good group of people on something that's challenging, where everyone is kind of focused on figuring something out, is the best reward that you can get in any job, right? Like, there's a challenge ahead of us. All of us have the exact same goal. We're all driven to get to the finish line on this thing, and you help each other along, in that process. And those have been the most rewarding experiences for me in my professional life. And it's been a long time for me since I've felt that on a project, on something I'm working on. It reminded me of how I felt when I was much younger and I was working on stuff where I had no idea what was going on, because it was new, it was challenging. So I think that's what drives me, is like, what's the next one of those? So what's the next thing that I can be doing that is hard and that is cool? It's cool to figure out. It's like, I like putting IKEA furniture together.
Who doesn't?
I know, it's fun. And the more complicated, the more accomplished I feel. IKEA. That's what I'm saying. I put an armoire together. It took me 6 hours. At the end of that, I was like, I was so happy. It's not that hard to do, but I'm just saying. Felt pretty good. I enjoy a challenge. I enjoy working with people that are also motivated, and working by yourself in a silo can stink. And I know that about myself, that in moments in my life where I've had to like really just be on my own, those have been some of the scarier like moments where you really start to like dive into yourself and like that's probably where I get the most anxious, is when I'm alone on okay. work, right? Because you don't have people to like really bounce off of, right? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting thing to consider. At least it is for me.
Yeah, and I feel like the work is always better when there's more people to bounce ideas off of. Not, it has to be the right people, but you can't just come up with a great idea on your own. That's just one vision, that's one perspective. Like, you need to have a trusted circle that you can actually bounce ideas off, and a constructive group of people who are on the same page, like you're saying. Like, they are in it to solve a problem, smart minds, and when they come together, that's when really great things can happen.
Yeah, that's 100% right.
I think what I find interesting about what you said is, you were talking about earlier how what gives you anxiety is this idea of uncertainty. Mm. Yet, what you love the most about this project was the level of uncertainty. Mm.
Yeah.
It's almost like two very different...
Yeah. I think it's, the uncertainty of like what's ahead theoretically is the anxious feeling that you get. Like, where am I going to be in 5 years? When am I going to be in 20 years? Like, oh my God, it's so scary to think about it. I don't want to think about it, right? But the uncertainty of how you get to the finish line on a project is different, because you can see the finish line, or it's like right over there, and there might be some things you have to figure out how to get around, but you know that you have to get there.
And you will.
And you have to. It's not like in 10 years, like, this sounds weird, but it's like, I don't have to figure out where I am in 10 years. Like, where I end up in 10 years will be the result of a lot of things I do. And I can try to plan for it and whatever, but I don't have to get to the finish line at 10 years from now. I don't have like a 10-year project that I'm working on that culminates in 10 years. But I may have a project that has a finish line date in 4 months from now, and that's very real, and that's not saying that doesn't make you anxious and start feeling weird about that, but it's a direct line that you can see. Yeah. And depending on, that project and what it is, that can be the motivator, right? Understanding what your path is, even if it's just short term. you know? So yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. I'm trying to like self-diagnose.
It makes sense. I think you know you're gonna cross that finish line.
In some way. Yeah.
You know it's gonna happen.
I know I'm gonna get over there. I don't know
Yeah.
how. I don't know what it's gonna be like once I get there. But yeah, I'm gonna get there.
And the window you have is a lot shorter than, say, 10 years, 5 years. It's days. Let me ask you, what was the question I was going to ask you? Oh yeah, I want to ask you, what is the biggest risk you've taken, and did it pay off?
In my life, what is the biggest risk that I've taken? It's tough. It's really tough to try to figure out. I've taken small risks. I remember when I got out of college, I didn't know, just like now, didn't know what the hell I was going to do. Wasn't sure, like, what's my path, like, in 10 years from now? I need to start thinking about what I want to do for the rest of my life. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I knew that, I don't want to live with my parents. I want to move into the city. I need to figure that out. And I had a job in the city. I was commuting from my parents' house. I was not making enough money. I was barely...
New Jersey, right?
No, upstate, 40 minutes upstate New York. 40 minutes from the city. I was taking a train to Metro North into Grand Central every morning. I was working at a talent agency. I was getting paid $10 an hour. And I wasn't getting paid enough money to... It was covering my commuting costs because I was driving, so fuel, I was crossing a bridge, I was paying that toll, I was parking at the train station, and I was buying a monthly train ticket, and I had the Metro card. And I was making $10 an hour, and I was making no money. And I don't even remember, I think maybe I was making enough money to cover the commuting costs every month, and maybe I had like $100 or $200 on top of that. So I didn't have enough money to live in the city. I wasn't making enough money to live in the city. But I had some money saved, and I decided that I'd figure it out. But I had a finite amount of money. It wasn't like I had this pot of money that was just never ending. But my buddy and my former roommate, he was ready and I was ready, and I was like, well, I'm going to move in with anybody. He was my old college roommate. I'm moving with him, and I made the decision to do it knowing that I didn't make enough money to live in the city. Mm-hmm. So every month I'd watch my bank account, slowly. Yeah, no, it was like every month. It would be like less and less and less every single month. That went on for nearly a year and a half. Really? Yeah. And I was this close. I was this close to like really, there were times that I remember thinking to myself like, shit. And there'd be like 1 week where like I'd go out to the bar and get drunk and then have like, look at my bar tab the next morning and be like, oh, what have I done? I'll be eating ramen noodles for the next 2 weeks, And some weeks were worse than others. I remember thinking to myself, like, am I going to have to go home, like, move back home? It was a real thought, It didn't happen. I got a new job. I didn't get paid a lot of money then either, but it was, compared to what I was getting paid, it was like, oh my God. And I was basically making enough money to live there, pay my rent, my expenses, and kind of have a couple bucks left over, but not really. But I wasn't in the red anymore. I wasn't like hemorrhaging money every month. I still had to live on a really tight budget, but it was kind of a risk, I was, at the time, working at this big company thinking like, oh my God, this is my shot. And then when I realized that it wasn't going to be what I wanted to do and I had to make that transition, it was scary. There was a real feeling of like, I'm going to have to like go back to my mom and my dad with my tail between my legs. So I feel like that was a risk for me, taking a risk on myself and, saying, figure it out.
That's a big risk.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there too. When I moved to the city, I was not making enough. I was paycheck to paycheck, but I kind of feel like in those moments when you force yourself to struggle, that's when you learn the most and you come out stronger. I feel like sometimes those experiences are necessary in order to go that next step. Like,
Yeah. How about you? Same thing? Biggest risk? Biggest risk you've ever taken?
biggest risk I've ever taken. Yeah, I asked this question to a lot of people. I never thought about it myself. Similar, I think, in the sense that I grew up upstate and I moved to New York to go to college. I got an offer from St. John's University, but I could have went to any SUNY school for free and had no student loans, no debt. But I bypassed that because I'm like, hey, I want to go to the city. And I never really believed in college. I just knew it was something I had to do. And I got my degree, and hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. But it was a huge risk, and I don't regret it because of it forced me to be here. I never knew anything about the city life, you know, what it takes to make it. And having just moving to the city, it forced me, it was like a new perspective, a new world, a new way to see things, a new way to see how people get things done. To be surrounded by people who are driven. A lot of my closest friends from college I still talk to now. So taking that risk, there's money tied to it.
Sure.
It's going to be the rest of my life, but I live I live a great life because of the situation. Because I moved here.
Right.
But it was hard, very hard in the beginning.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Yeah, because you don't know. You know, like the reality, the weight of it settles in when it's real. You know, when you're younger, I've always kept a pretty good, I think one of the reasons maybe that I've been able to be successful in certain things that I've done is that while I have the ability to kind of get anxious about stuff, I tend to fall on the it's going to be all right mentality for most things. Even when I know that the challenges ahead are pretty significant, like, it'll be all right. Like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Stop worrying about it. Like, I at least I'm good at telling other people that. You know, I'm really good at telling other people that. And sometimes I don't listen to myself, but, you know, because, you know, if you have faith in yourself to do stuff and you know, put in the time, put in the work, and it should, in theory, be okay. You know, should be all right. So I try to tell myself that on a lot of things. You know, it'll be all right. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Like, don't, you know, live your life, make some choices. I've always kind of lived by like having a short, like I'm not good at knowing what the hell I'm gonna do in 10 years, but I can plan for like 3 months from now, or I can set small goals and stick to them pretty easily.
Yeah.
If I'm motivated.
You never panic either.
I panicked before. Maybe you
I've never seen it.
You haven't seen it. When I was younger, I certainly panicked more. But I think it's experience, you know? You don't seem to panic either. I don't think you're...
Oh man, I'm panicking inside all the time.
Yeah, inside, alright, but you don't show it. You have a good poker face. But I mean, I've seen a lot of shit happen. Thing is, a lot of people panic on stuff that I see and I'm like, you shouldn't be panicking. I get it, it's no nerve-wracking, but like, in what we do, like we do events, and people that work in events know that things will always change. Like, they always change.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not prepared, and in your mind go, what happens if this happens? Maybe I'll do this. I'll fix it with this. A good producer, or someone that is, someone who's been in events long enough, that's good at it, knows that there's some level of uncertainty in it. As much as you plan, as much as you can do. Dealing with people, you're dealing with people who aren't you. You're dealing with uncertainty.
You mind?
I do not mind. I encourage it. I think that comes with time and experience. I've seen people at events panic, freak out. If people freak out, everybody around you freaks out.
Oh yeah.
If you keep it together, even if the building's on fire, the people around you will keep it together. It's a good lesson I learned early on, actually. I had like a panic session at an event, and I was freaked out, man. I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We got to do this, that, and someone was like, dude, shut your mouth and just calm down. And I remember being like, okay, and be like, we're going to figure it out. But I'm like, how are we going to figure out? Things over there. We got 7 hours. It's I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, no, you can't fix this. And it's like, you're right, we can't. So there's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
And I was like, yeah. And they're like, it's literally impossible to fix that problem at this point. And yeah, like, we should have done this better. And you can get upset all you want. You can harp on it. You can beat yourself up over it. And no one is better at beating themselves up or beating myself up than I am. I do that to myself all the time when I screw something up or it doesn't go the way I want it to go. But this person told me, they were like, it's over. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to happen. And now we're here, and now we got to do something else. So instead of trying to fix a problem that can't be fixed,
adapt.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Just
right.
adapt to
And at the end of the day, the issue wasn't all that big of an issue. Or at least in the grand scheme of things, the people around, like, no one really noticed it was an issue. We did, but, and that's not an excuse for, it's like, sure, we should have done this the right way or should have done something differently. But we learned from it, and we kind of rolled with the punches and figured out how to adapt in the situation. And that will make you better on the next one, So through those experiences, when things happen, you kind of just, it's way better to not lose it.
How else do you deal with anxiety? Like, is there anything else you do to deal with it?
I have an extensive bourbon collection. That helps a lot. I enjoy that. I say it jokingly but seriously, like over the past year or so, especially over the last 6 months, I've gotten really into the history behind American whiskeys, and I spend time on like online boards and communities and stuff, like looking into it and talking to people and like being like, oh, let's meet up, I'll trade this bottle, I have this thing that you want, you have this thing that I want. And, it's something that I enjoy that like takes me out of like the daily nonsense of other stuff, because when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's like a hobby.
That's you time.
It's me time. It's a hobby. Going to the gym, right? Like you can exercise. Doing jiu-jitsu for me is like that's therapeutic, physically, mentally, emotionally. That to me, doing that is one of the great things that I allowed to do in my life. Those are the things I really enjoy. When I get a chance to go snowboarding, it's probably one of my favorite things on earth to be doing. If it was an all-year activity and I could do it all year, I would. And it would be, I'd be out there every weekend if I really could. But we live in the Northeast. The conditions aren't awesome out here, and it's expensive. So, but when I can, I do it, and it's always like one of the great things I do all season. I like to travel. I travel a lot for work, but I like to just travel in general. I like being in new places and meeting people in places that I don't live in.
I'm just so jealous you've been to Japan.
Yeah, I've been there once. I was in Tokyo for like 6 days, and it was great. It's a great place. It's a cool ass city. But those experiences, that kind of, or planning those experiences, or at least knowing that they're coming up. Like having a trip on the horizon is always helpful, because you're always like 8 weeks to go.
I have something to look forward to.
Yeah, you got something to look forward to. That helps. Another thing that helps, honestly, is this, right? Like spending time with friends and even family, and just like talking it out. you know, I think one of the most therapeutic things to do is talk about the things that are affecting you just out loud. Like we're talking about anxiety, you know, it's like, and we're talking to a camera about it, but you and I are drinking a glass of whiskey, talking about anxiety, and that is way better than me sitting on a bus thinking about anxiety, you know? I think just talking about it out loud is good. I don't know, it's therapeutic and it helps. Because it makes you rationalize it. You know, you kind of start to think about it differently, and you go, okay, well, why do I feel that way?
The takeaway I've gotten from all of this is like, if there's like one common element, it's just like, it's not that serious. It's like almost like, let go, everything's gonna be fine. It's like we're worrying about things we don't necessarily have to worry about or should worry about. But for some reason, we, as just human beings, get caught up in things we can't control and things that are just unknown.
Life is way more nuanced than it was 1,000 years ago, probably. Like, I gotta find my next meal. I gotta make sure that fucking saber-toothed tiger doesn't kill me. You know, like, you know, it's like now it's, you know, we're connected all the time. You know, people say shit on social media. You know, our politics, our religions, our ideologies are broadcast. Everyone has an opinion. You know, what other people think and feel affect us. You know, what we say and do can affect other people. It's all these things are nuanced ways that we have kind of just like in society have evolved over the past few decades, really. I mean, social media, you could say, has kind of changed everything, but it's better to maybe reel it in and say, all right, at the end of the day, what do I really need to be focused on? It's like, do I have a comfortable place to live? Can I essentially do the things I want to do? Yeah, maybe I can't like buy a yacht and go out like, you know, and do some crazy ass shit, but can I live my life? Do I like the people in my life? You know, and if you can go, you know what, like, hey, I go home every night, I have somebody that I enjoy spending my time with, I have good people around me, I focus on them, I'm good. You know, that there's always more, there's always, how am I going to reach the next thing, there's always going to be that. And everyone's motivations are different. And I'm not saying it's wrong for anyone who are motivated to like make more money or to have different type of status symbols in their life. I'm not saying like, hey, you're flawed if that's how you think. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like personal happiness is what matters, and however you get there is up to you. But most people are similar in that it's like have good relationships in your life. If you're comfortable, you know, you can put food on the table, you can go home, you have a decent place to be, you're alright. And I go back to my apartment and I can say, I don't like this apartment, I want to live somewhere else. And I can say, my commute's too long. I could say, oh, I wonder if my job is this instead of this. But I'm in a better place than a lot of people.
Or even than you were 10 years ago.
Yeah, but think about it. And, you know, this is getting into something else, but it's like, you and I are in a really great position, right? We live in one of the greatest cities in the world, right? We are able to sit in a quiet place and drink whiskey. We're warm. It's freezing out there. You know, there's a lot of like simple shit that we all kind of take for granted. I try to remind myself of that. I try to. You know?
I think we have to.
Yeah. So
it's easy to forget what's in front of you.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very easy.
Just take things for granted, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like you know, we talk about anxiety and all this other stuff, but like, what are the things that make you super anxious? Putting you on the spot now.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot because I have to write about it. I alluded to it earlier, but it's I think I've nailed it down to regret and worry. Regretting things that I could have done better, like on a daily, like oh, I could have said that, or I could have done this. If I didn't get up to go to the gym, that ruins my whole day because I didn't prioritize that in the morning. And that's how you start your day. Like, you don't want to start my day on a bad path. Like, I didn't own up to my own word. That's the way I see that. Or just worry in the sense that, and that's probably even bigger than regret, is like not...
well, if you don't go to the gym, what are you worried about? Like, what is it that worries you about it?
That's more regret.
Right.
Yeah.
You regret it.
I regret that. I guess I just worry that I'm not going to accomplish my fitness goals.
Okay.
Because I'm not being as consistent as I want to be.
Right.
And it's just like, yeah, it's so minor. But I put a lot of weight into it because I made a word to myself. My word is my bond. I'm going to do this. I'm going to wake up at this time every day. And so if I don't do that, I feel like I let myself down. You know, and I take a lot of pride in my word. When I tell someone to do something, I do it. Because at the end of the day, like, it's one of my biggest values. It's all I have, really. And that's what people are going to judge you by. So, there's that, and then worry in the sense of, like, not knowing if I'm going to be able to accomplish something. Or do my best work, or is this going to get done? And that's just thinking about the future, what's ahead of me. So, those are two constant forms of anxiety for me.
It just sounds like, you know, you're human, man. It's like, I also think regret, depending on the scenario, it's like, if it's like self-regret, oh, I regret that I didn't do this thing for me. I think the one thing you could take away from it is like, you're conscious of things that you can be doing to make yourself better, right? Like, I can work out more, I can eat better, I can do, like, you're aware of them, right? And if you're aware of them, that's at least a step in the right direction, right? If you're oblivious to the things and you're like, you know, whatever, like, that's you know, that's when you can start having problems. And I think it's good to know, like, because that's motivation as well, right? Like, maybe you wake up the next morning and you go, I didn't work out yesterday, I really don't want to work out today either, but fuck, I cannot let that happen again, you know? It can motivate you as well. So you can regret it, but, you know, if you had a very laid back attitude about that, you might never do it. So.
Yeah. No, this is true. I think I am very hard on myself, though. You know.
That's okay.
And anxiety, I don't feel it when I'm present. You know, when I don't leave room for regret or worry, because I'm really living in the now, and that's something I'm trying to practice. And I found that along with not caring as much about things that are on the top of my priority list, whether that's people or things, giving more of my energy to the things that really matter, it's very important. Like, I see, like, you have this much energy per day.
That's right.
What are you going to do with that? Are you going to give it away to all these other things? Or are you going to, you know, really save it for when you get home to your significant other that's home? Or yourself when you have your time? Like, not giving your energy away, I think, is another thing to practice.
Yeah. It's a good point. I mean, knowing kind of, maybe that's what it is. It's like, as you move on in life, as you get older or whatever it is, you start to know where you want your time to be spent. You know what you like to do. you know, things that make you happy and you want to spend more time doing those things. You know, it could be as simple as like cooking a meal for yourself or going to the gym or whatever. You know, if you're doing more of those things and you're making more time and you're cutting out some of the superfluous bullshit that we're all guilty of, you know, then yeah, you'll be happier for it. And the more time you spend doing those things, you're likely not as focused on the anxiety, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe that's kind of the takeaway too, is like, okay, yeah, I have anxiety about all these things, but are you anxious all the time? Like, are you? I don't know. To me, it's one of those things where you can acknowledge that you have those feelings, but it doesn't mean that they have to consume you. Like, just split up your time. Like, fuck, you're gonna go to work, I'm gonna be anxious about this shit. That's okay. Maybe you can't help it. Not everyone can. And maybe it's an acceptable part of, like, the structure of who you are. Like, between this time and this time, you go to work, you have a good portion of that day, I'm gonna be stressed out, be anxious. But after that, I wanna be good. I wanna be real good.
You know what I started doing is in my calendar, I block out 2 hours to myself.
That's awesome. Do you stick to it?
For the most part, yeah.
Or what time is that? Like when?
From like, it changes. Sometimes I gotta change it, but usually from like, it's usually in the morning for me.
Yeah.
Either morning or the very end of the day. And I play it by how I feel that day.
Do you do pretty much the same thing in those 2 hours each day?
Yeah.
Okay. And every day it's you like what you do in those 2 hours?
Oh yeah.
Great.
I work on this labor.
Yeah.
My baby.
So that's awesome. And
So
you've created something then for yourself. That's awesome. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Like, it really doesn't matter what it is. If it's making you happy and or it motivates you, that's perfectly fine. You know, like everyone's thing is different. So, and a lot of people don't have that. Like, a lot of people don't have like a thing that's like, oh, like this is the thing I'm motivated to do. That's my own, and not a lot of people have that.
Well, that's what we want to do. We want to inspire. I think a lot of people have ideas of things they want to do.
Yeah.
And there's a fear oftentimes attached to it where they don't know how to begin, or, it's not even a possibility. There's a lot of doubt. But what I've been noticing is that a lot of these ideas people have are, especially our generation. Are you millennial?
I think technically I am.
A lot of millennials, or a lot of people in general, the things they want to do are actually to improve the world and to better people's lives. They have a very deep desire to better things, and they are not happy with the way the world is right now, and they want to do something about it. And I find that empowering, and I feel if we can really come together and dedicate a little amount of time every day to just doing those things you really want to do, you can live a happier life, and you can actually feel like you matter, because you do matter. You're doing something meaningful. Which brings me to my final question for you, to wrap things up. And I ask this to everyone that comes on, is I'm going to ask you, what is your advice to anyone on how to live a more creative and meaningful life?
I think it's motivation, finding it, finding out, and a lot of that can be, the self-discovery of what it is that drives you, and that it can take time. You might not know the answer to that. I don't consider myself a creative by nature. Like, I know people who are just like, they can't stop thinking about creative ideas. I think I have the ability to be creative. I think I do have a creative side of me. I think of creative things. But it comes out more when it's something that I'm passionate about, right? So the advice I have is explore. Because it may take you a long time to find out what that is. And unless you're open to experiences and trying things and failing and opening yourself up and being vulnerable and being scared and taking risks and just doing things, that you may not find it, you know? There are things in my life that I fell into, either by chance or because I tried something that I wasn't sure about and ended up loving it. Like, take risks, take chances, explore. And out of that, you might find a passion that leads you down a path that, you know, you may never look back from. And I think maybe that's part of the search. It's like I'm always looking for that. There are things that I've found that I like, but some people find that thing and then they never look back. And I think that's, you know, that's, to me, like, that's the only advice I can ever give anybody. Is like, don't close yourself off. You know, completely give in to the world and experience as much as you can.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, man.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Opening up, man. I think this is great. I think we learned a lot about anxiety, and hopefully people, you know, it'll resonate with a lot of people. So
hope so.
Again, I appreciate you and appreciate you for taking the time to talk about it.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
It's always good. Cheers.